There are fears that some parts of our region could soon struggle to cope with an ageing population. Parts of Norfolk have some of the highest proportions of pensioners in the country, and the numbers in Suffolk are well above average as well.
Grey power in full effect. Today, Norwich's two MPs listened to the concerns of their older constituents.
My concern is for the funding for the care of the elderly.
Constituents who are increasing in number and therefore potentially in power.
Think very carefully, because what you do now, the way you act now, will have consequences that you have not considered, and those consequences will hurt the most vulnerable.
Difficult decisions like the planned closure of Norfolk County Council's Essex and Silver daycare centres. With an ageing population and a government pledged to large public spending cuts, such decisions are no easy sell.
It's more pensioners, less money, essentially, which means that the younger generations have to shoulder some of that burden. Now, we started talking about public finances, and the fact is, the Prime Minister says it, but it's not just an empty statement. We are actually all in that together.
The government predicts Norfolk and Suffolk will be particularly affected. As this map shows, the deeper the colour, the older the population.
Well, here in Suffolk, it's a great place to live, and so people live longer in Suffolk. We've got the same issue as everyone else with the baby boomers retiring, and additionally we have inward migration. Lots of people come to retire in Suffolk, and this increases our older population.
Today's forum has been a gentle reminder to politicians that our ageing population is growing not just in numbers but also in terms of political muscle, and they intend to use it. Clive Lewis, BBC Look East, Norwich.
The girlfriend of a man accused of a double murder in Norwich has described the night she found him covered in blood. The victims, Kenneth Snell and Karen Brown, were stabbed and beaten to death last October. Karen Brown's former partner John Moody has admitted their manslaughter but denies murder. Today, his girlfriend Nadine Girling said she'd bandaged wounds to his hands and legs that night. He told her he'd been in a fight. The case continues. A plan to create a public right-of-way along the whole East Anglian coast is in doubt because of funding cuts. Ramblers say it's vital that coastal access is improved.
The East Anglian coast, pressure for access to it has never been greater. The last government passed legislation establishing access to a coastal path as a public right. The reality at present is very different. These are the usable stretches of path, and these are the gaps. But that's not all. At Overstrand in Norfolk, the crumbling coast presents yet another problem.
Well, the problem is the path on the ground is not the one on the map. The path on the map is over the cliff.
On the beach, somewhere down there?
Well, somewhere down the slope there, yeah, it's on the bottom.
You can actually see here on the map,
yes,
can't you?
Yes, you can actually see it on the map.
Norfolk's in the first phase to establish an unbroken coast path, but Natural England is already scaling back the plans because of cuts to its budget. This landowner at Warberswick in Suffolk believes the project is flawed and should be scrapped.
We've got a fantastic beach that people have walked up and down for years, yet this is regarded as Natural England as having insufficient access. How much of a waste of money is to legalise that? Also, it's going to impact on people that have houses and businesses on the coast where they've enjoyed privacy and now, with this deferment of the implementation, aren't going to know what's happening to them.
Natural England denies that its plan for an all-England coast path has been shelved. But the reality is it and other government agencies could face swingeing spending cuts come the autumn spending review. Only then will we know if this project has survived. Richard Daniel, BBC Look East, Overstrand.
A Norwich City footballer could miss tomorrow's opening game against Watford because he's due in court. Striker Grant Holt faces trial in Shropshire, accused of failing to give the identity of a car's driver. He faces a 200-mile dash back to Norwich to make the evening kick-off, but the club expects him to play.
He'll be in the squad anyway, that's for sure. I know the issue of it, and it's with Grant, and he's, as I said before, he's representative, so it's got nothing to do with me on that side of it or the club. It's between Grant and obviously the court, but I'm sure he'll be okay.
One of the top people in the Bernard Matthews group is to leave the company to pursue other interests. Jeff Halliwell joined the Norfolk-based turkey producer last summer. He's the second UK chief executive to leave the company after a short term of office in 3 years.
The country's population of bees is under threat. Today, the National Trust hosted the latest event in a BBC campaign to raise awareness of the importance of our little furry friends. It was in the grounds of one of Suffolk's most beautiful, stately homes.
Ickworth House, the backdrop, the bee part of it.
And we also have with us members of Suffolk beekeepers, because it is all about bees.
BBC Radio Suffolk is here, so are lots of children, and of course, there are the bees.
I can see a red spot.
Can you see it? Behind me is the youngsters are doing a bit of wax rolling, I gather. I haven't had a go at it yet. I shall have a go a little bit later on.
Wax rolling? Oh, they're making candles.
It's quite difficult to get it rolled, because you have to get it completely straight at the sides. We're making a butterfly and making a clay bee.
Bees are a very important part of our environment. If we don't have bees, we won't be able... a third of our food won't be there to eat.
And Jack knows what he's talking about.
Lots of insects pollinate, but bees pollinate en masse, and that's why they're really important.
Away from the public, Ickworth's own hives, each with up to 60,000 bees. In a less beesy place, Francesca explains why she prefers bees to wasps.
They don't sting you as much, and when they do sting you, they die, so it kind of serves them right.
John Halford, BBC Look East, Suffolk.